Today we want to take a look at SpeedGrader and an easy way to actually manage submissions from students. It will subdivide them by section. It does a lot of really neat things. So by having the students turn them in on Canvas, one, it'll save your inbox and save you from the madness of tracking all of that. But also the system itself is designed really nicely for teachers. So let's take a look. When you're on your dashboard, you're going to see a to-do list. Now, for a teacher, that's a to-do list of anything you've assigned or kids have submitted. And so that red circle represents how many submissions there are for each assignment. So it's a nice thing to do because you can grade as they come in, you can wait, you have a lot of functionality. So when you're on your dashboard, you see all of your classes. If you go to one particular course, your to-do list will only be for that class. And so the easiest way to get there is to just click the red link and it'll open in SpeedGrader. Now I'm just going to briefly go over the different things you're seeing on the screen. On the right-hand side, that's sort of where you can assign them a grade, where you can give them feedback like, hey, I need you to resubmit, I need you to look at number 5, I need you to, do whatever kind of summative comments. And you can attach files in case you want to attach something for them to look at and review. You could give a video or media audio comment, and then there's actually a text-to-speech, speech text option. And then you can download any submission comments, and unless there was like a long chain, because this area sort of becomes a in real-time chat for you and the student. So you'll see this area above assignments over time would populate with text. So if I had done hit submit, it'll show here now. A chain could start, a conversation back and forth between the teacher and student can take place through this. And then the students, if they have submission comments on their notification, would get notified every time you left a comment. So the other thing, though, is that you can assign a grade. You'll notice that it'll have a circle here when it's pending. Once you assign a grade and click off of that box, you'll notice that it'll refresh and it becomes a check mark, now taking it off of your to-do list. So that's really nice. Now, the file itself, if you wanted to download and save it, you could do that. If there were multiple files, you would see multiple links. And if a student had multiple submissions, there would be a drop-down screen here so that you could go back in time and look at previous submissions. Up here is where you'll see all of your students. If their name is grayed out, it means that they have not made a submission. And then you can then see any past ones because they would have a check mark there with their name. Now, a neat feature is you can also pick by section. So if you have different sections by period, however you're dividing, typically it's by section. So if I'm teaching an Algebra 1 course and I have 4 periods of it, it'll auto subdivide it so that I only see period 1 or period 2, which is nice because now you can easily use the system rather than creating multiple drop boxes. A good feature on the left-hand side is you have 3 tools here. This will get you to the spreadsheet gradebook skyward-looking view in Canvas. This is so that you can decide to post or hide grades. They used to call it mute. Basically, it allows you to say that nobody will be able to see comments or grades until you post. That way, if you wanted to grade the whole class first, you could grade one by one and no one will see their grades until you release it. And you can even do that for specific sections, which is a really nice tool. And then the cogwheel gives you some settings. Now, under options, I found this very helpful because for me, it defaults to students alphabetically, but I like to switch it to submission status so that the ones that need grading come up first so that I'm not going through 30 grades before I get to one. So when you select that functionality, it'll hold in that course for you. And now it'll go based on if they've submitted. So at the top, after I'm done with this test student, it'll default back to alphabetical order, which will tell me that I'm done grading. And then the other thing on the screen is obviously the main area. Now, depending on what they're submitting, you're going to select different options: text box entry, file upload, media submission, URL submission. And depending on what they're submitting, like if they were submitting a link to a website, you would want to select the website URL because it would actually populate in this area. If they were doing a YouTube video, you could do like a text box entry and they could just pop in the link and you would be able to go. If you were doing something like Adobe Spark, then you would do like a URL. So they'd submit that URL and then you'd be able to watch that video right here in SpeedGrader. So it's a little tricky. So sometimes if you're thinking about having a non-traditional assignment, you might want to reach out and we could talk about the best way so that you can see the product here and be able to give comments, put a rubric, do whatever. And then up top here are your annotation tools. So this allows you to actually write or make marks, you know. Then you can do stuff like, leave comments. So if you do the select tool, then once you've selected, it gives you the ability to say, rethink this thesis. And so you can kind of provide feedback, you have color options, and then you have the ability to actually download the annotated version. So let's say you were saving it to a portfolio to show that what marks you made, or you were trying to share with the parent the feedback you had given them. This is a way you could do that. Now, if a parent is an observer within Canvas, they can view this feedback. If they go under the grade screen, every assignment for a student view on grades allows them to see each individual assignment. It also allows to see if you left any submission comments, if you had a rubric attached, and then they could click on it to see what time their student submitted it. And then there's a view feedback button, which would then open up your annotated document. So there's a lot of really nice functionality that happens pretty intuitively. So by you just making an assignment and choosing a submission type, then you can make it really easy. The last thing I want to show you before we go is once you're done grading, it's sometimes hard to know how to get out of here. And so if you click this link, it'll take you back to the assignment itself in case you needed to make any edits. And then if you click this little tag that'll match whatever the name of your course is, that'll take you back to your home screen. So let's say I wanted to make an edit on the assignment. Well, I can click the assignment. It'll take me back to this screen. And so this is another way to get to SpeedGrader. If you ever wanted to get to SpeedGrader, you could just go to the assignment screen, pick any given assignment, and you'll always see SpeedGrader as an option here, as well as download submissions. And you can see for this one, I said submit as a file upload. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. Depending on what they're submitting, you want to be strategic and not just select everything. You want to select, you don't want to select everything because it might confuse the student as to which one. So depending on what they're actually submitting, file upload's pretty much the basic one. I use text entry for simple, quick responses and for YouTube links. I use website URL if they're sharing a Google Doc that maybe isn't done yet and we're still working and going back and forth, or a website that they might want to share. And then if they were submitting a media recording, although a lot of people use third-party tools for this, like Flipgrid or VoiceThread, sometimes the media recorder in here can get overloaded. So sometimes it's best to just record it on the device and upload it. But those are your basic options. So, I just wanted to kind of give you a little overview of SpeedGrader and how all of that functionality works. And so the last leg of the race is once you've gone through and you've graded everybody currently, the nice thing about all of this is that you can now go to the gradebook. And if you go to the column for this, so file upload via Google, then you can message students who, and that would be really nice. So, anytime you're over any assignment that had an online submission, after you've graded, you could always go to message students who, and then let them know, hey, I haven't seen a submission, reach out if you need help. And this would send something to their Canvas inbox, which should also then, based on their notifications, send it to their school Gmail account. So this is really nice. The only functionality here that is not as nice is you can't attach a parent, especially if they're not an observer. If they're an observer, they should get a message as well with this. But if they're not signed up, there's no way to add in an outside email because it's within the system itself. But that's a nice little tool because you have a couple options on who you could send a message to. Maybe you want to send ones to let them know you're still working on grading them, or if you wanted to send someone who scored, more than to say attaboy, you have a couple options there. So that's a really nice tool that if you're having them submit via Canvas, then you can put a message out on all who have submitted, not necessarily all who have been graded. So that's a really nice feature to kind of easily stay in touch with the kids.